Hi Super Spellers, let's take a look at this week's list. Up the top in the red words, we've got 6 words that are just setting out what's happening this week. We're focusing on the graph U, making the sound ah, as in sun, or but, or shut, or slug, or must, or grunt. You may want to choose one of the red words this week, but I'm imagining most of you will pick from the orange and green words. So let's go through a couple of those, not all of them like we would normally do in class. Let's have a look first at the word funny. The sounds in funny are f, a, n, e. The letters in funny are f, u, n, n, y. So when we're doing that, we're going to be looking at the NN as a digraph that's just making the single n sound in this word. The Y on the end is a graph making the sound E, a bit like a long letter E, but this time it's a Y. Let's have a look at another one from this section. We've got a few words this week that have a, n at the start of them. Un. It's a prefix. That's a particular part of a word that adds at the beginning of the word to change the meaning. So in this case, unhelpful will be the opposite of helpful. Untidy will be the opposite of tidy, and so on. The other word I'm going to pick out from the orange words is actually the word muddiest, because it's using some of our 4 main spelling rules. So what do you think is the original word that we're looking at first before it turns into the word muddiest? If you were thinking the word was mud, you'd be right. M-U-D. Now what's happening here is we end up with a double D somewhere in this word. But why does that happen? Well, that's because in this case, the word mud has first been changed to the word muddy. So that's followed our rule where it says when the second last letter makes the sound a, e, I, o, or a. So in this case, m-a-d, that's the second last letter making the sound a. We double the last letter before we add the vowel suffix. So before we put the Y from mud to muddy, we've doubled the D. Now this word that we're looking at in our list is actually the word muddiest. So what's happening with this word is when we're getting to the end and we're having the Y at the end of muddy, we're changing the Y to an I in the pink spelling rule before we add the suffix at the end. So before we add the EST. So that one's got a few tricky things to remember, that you'll need to double the D when you're changing mud into muddy, but you're also changing the Y into an I before you add the EST as a suffix in that word. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody nail that one in dictation this week. All right, in the green words, let's just have a look through at what we've got there. We have the word sluggish. Sluggish is a word that means something like being very slow. So you might say the car had a sluggish drive up the gravel driveway. You might say you were feeling sluggish because you didn't get a very good sleep last night. Then we have unravel. Well, unravel would be the opposite of ravel, which isn't a word we use very often in English, but if something unravels, it comes apart or falls apart. Unhappily is the next one. I think you'll know what that means straight up. It's the opposite of doing something happily. That's an adverb, so a word that describes what a verb or a doing word in a sentence is occurring like. Undoes is the next one. Then unlucky. Oh, it was very unlucky that we're not at school and you're having to watch me on these silly little videos instead. And uppity. Uppity is an interesting one. If you're not sure what that one means, I'd actually like you to try looking it up in a dictionary this week and seeing if you can find out the meaning for yourself before you add it to your list. All right, thanks learners. I'll see you in our Zoom.